Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a deep dive into one of the most dramatic developments in the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine, a moment that has intensified global attention and raised serious questions about the future of Crimea, the security of Russian infrastructure, and the evolution of modern warfare. We're talking about the powerful underwater attack that struck Russia's vital connection to Crimea. And in this video, we're going to break down everything that happened, why it happened, how it was carried out, and why it matters far beyond the battlefield. The story begins with a pre-on detonation that sent shockwaves across the Kerch Strait. This explosion wasn't simply heard, it was felt, literally and politically. It hit the underwater supports of the Kerch Bridge, the massive structure that Russia built after annexing Crimea in 2014, and it immediately became clear that this was not an ordinary strike. The bridge has been attacked before, but this one carried a different tone, a different message, and a different level of sophistication. What makes this incident especially striking is that it wasn't a quick strike operation. Reports indicate that the explosives were planted over months through a methodical underwater campaign that required planning, stealth, and advanced technology. From Ukraine's perspective, this wasn't about symbolic gestures. This was about hitting Russia's most important logistical lifeline. As the news broke, conflicting statements emerged from both sides. Ukraine's security services claimed responsibility, emphasizing the precision and planning of the operation. Russia, on the other hand, acknowledged the explosion but insisted that the bridge remained intact and operational. The narrative battle became almost as intense as the underwater blast itself. But regardless of which side's initial assessment you believe, what cannot be understated is that this attack exposed vulnerabilities in Russia's infrastructure that many assumed were secure. The underwater foundations of the bridge were always considered difficult to reach, well-guarded, and structurally resilient. Yet someone reached them anyway. This raises a critical question: how did an attack like this become possible? And the answer lies in a fascinating mix of new technology, old environments, and modern warfare. In recent years, Ukraine has dramatically increased its use of unmanned systems, particularly sea drones and submersible devices. Many analysts believe that this latest attack could have involved an advanced underwater drone capable of navigating currents, avoiding detection, and delivering heavy explosives. These types of drones have been tested before in other operations, and each time they become more capable. The underwater environment gives attackers a unique advantage. Radar doesn't work well underwater. Patrol boats can't easily detect what moves beneath them. And sound can be disguised or absorbed in complex ways. This kind of environment requires specialized sensors and constant surveillance, which is hard and expensive. This may have given Ukraine an opening. But beyond the technical aspects, there's a strategic layer to all of this. The Kerch Bridge isn't just a structure. It has enormous symbolic weight. For Russia, it represents its claim over Crimea. For Ukraine, it's a reminder of lost territory and a target of opportunity. For the international community, it's a flashpoint that could reshape the conflict. Every strike on this bridge sends a message. Russia's hold over Crimea is neither absolute nor secure. And this attack, coming from beneath the surface, carries an even louder message. It suggests that Ukraine is not only attacking from the air or the land, but is increasingly capable of reaching Russia's most fortified positions from unexpected angles. All of this is happening while the conflict itself continues to evolve. Both sides are adapting, improvising, and expanding the kinds of tools they use. Modern warfare is no longer limited to tanks, missiles, and infantry. It now includes drones, cyber attacks, sabotage, and operations that unfold in environments that used to be considered untouchable. This underwater strike challenges the assumptions many military planners have held for decades. You cannot protect every point of a long bridge, especially underwater. You cannot monitor every inch of seabed. You cannot stop a determined adversary from using ingenuity, creativity, and technology to reach your vulnerable points. For Russia, this means allocating more resources to protect the bridge, which is already costly. Reinforcing underwater supports is not simple. It can require divers, special equipment, and months of work. And even then, it's not guaranteed to be enough. The more Russia invests in protecting the bridge, the more it drains resources from other parts of the conflict. For Ukraine, the attack serves multiple purposes. It disrupts logistics. It undermines Russian confidence. It boosts Ukrainian morale. It reminds the world that the conflict is still dynamic. And it signals that Crimea remains an active and contested front. At the same time, it's worth considering the risks. Operations like this are incredibly dangerous. If discovered, they could lead to major escalation. They could trigger a harsh military response. They could alter diplomatic relations. They could even provoke new waves of retaliation. And yet, Ukraine calculated the risk and went ahead. That tells us something about the mindset driving these operations. Ukraine is not waiting to see what Russia does next. It is acting first, shaping the battlefield, and forcing Russia into a reactive posture. This attack also highlights the increasing role of intelligence. Planting explosives underwater over months requires reliable surveillance. It requires observing Russian patrols. It requires predicting when and where defenses are weakest. It requires knowing how to penetrate restricted areas without detection. Intelligence networks, satellites, informants, and reconnaissance drones all likely contributed to this operation. Modern intelligence gathering is no longer limited to spies hiding in shadows. It now involves digital networks, AI-assisted analysis, and real-time monitoring. The success of this attack speaks to how advanced those systems have become. As we look at the broader implications, it becomes clear that this strike is part of a larger trend. The conflict is moving into new domains. Just as the air war evolved with the widespread use of drones, now we are seeing the underwater domain becoming contested. This is a preview of future conflicts, where unmanned submersibles could play a role similar to aerial drones over the past decade. This attack might even set off a technological race. Russia will likely accelerate its underwater defense initiatives. Ukraine may invest more in submersible technology. Other nations watching from the sidelines may start developing their own underwater drone programs. What happened at the Kerch Bridge could eventually reshape naval warfare far beyond the Black Sea. There's also a psychological layer to this event. Striking a target so important to Russia sends a powerful message to the Russian public. Even if authorities claim the damage is minimal, the knowledge that the bridge can be hit repeatedly creates doubt. Doubt about security, doubt about strategy, doubt about leadership. For Ukrainians, the operation reinforces the idea that they are capable of hitting targets deep in contested zones. It strengthens national confidence and demonstrates that they are not simply defending, but also taking proactive, offensive steps in the conflict. Events like these often have ripple effects. They influence military planning, they influence diplomacy, they influence public opinion, they influence how future negotiations might unfold. They influence how international partners assess their support. And while this attack alone won't determine the outcome of the war, it adds pressure. Pressure on Russia to adapt. Pressure on Ukraine to keep up the momentum. Pressure on the world to pay attention. Pressure on decision makers to rethink their assumptions. It also reminds us that the conflict is not static. It is constantly shifting. Each new tactic opens the door to new responses. Each innovation triggers new countermeasures, and each escalation brings new uncertainties. As we reflect on this underwater strike, we should also consider what might come next. Will Ukraine attempt similar operations elsewhere? Will Russia increase its defenses or respond with its own sabotage attempts? Will new technologies emerge that make underwater attacks even more precise and harder to stop? The future of the conflict may hinge on questions like these. The battlefield is expanding, the tools are evolving, the strategies are shifting, and the stakes remain incredibly high. This underwater attack was more than an explosion. It was a message, a warning, a demonstration, and perhaps a glimpse into the next phase of modern warfare. Thanks for watching, and thank you for being part of this channel. If you found this deep dive analysis helpful, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts about this strike, what you think it means for the war in Crimea, and how you believe Russia and Ukraine will respond in the coming months. Your insights always help shape future videos, and I appreciate you being here as we break down global events with clarity and depth.